The galaxy burned under the rule of the Deathworld Alliance. For 300 years they had swept across star systems like a plague of violence, leaving nothing but submission or ash in their wake. No species had ever stood against them for long. No world had ever been too dangerous for them to conquer. War Marshal Krekthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching another world surrender through the viewing screen. His crystalline body reflected the light of the dying sun as his forces finished their work below. The Shalvek were perfect warriors, born on Pyraxis where lava flows carved the landscape daily and the air itself could melt lesser beings. Every day on his homeworld was a battle just to breathe. "Another easy victory," growled Commander Vexnoth, his chitinous armor clicking as he moved. The Morthak warrior had traveled far from Koroks, where acid rain fell constantly and the very ground tried to dissolve anything that touched it. His people had learned to fight before they learned to walk. These soft-worlders never learn. The third member of their command team said nothing. General Zephyron Prime's metallic form simply hummed with satisfaction. The radiation that bathed his homeworld of Nexus Prime would kill most species in minutes, but it only made his people stronger. Their metal skin could absorb energy that would destroy others. Together, these three species formed the core of the Deathworld Alliance. They had found each other during their early space travels and realized they shared something important. They all came from worlds that tried to kill them every single day. This had made them into the perfect warriors. While other species worried about comfort and peace, the Alliance knew only strength. "Marshal," called out a Shalvek officer from his station, "scout ships have returned from the next target system." Krekthar turned his attention to the incoming data. The system was small and unremarkable. A single yellow star with several planets, only one of which showed signs of intelligent life. The third planet from the star appeared to be inhabited by a species that called itself human. "Show me the reports," Krekthar commanded. The first scout captain appeared on the communication screen. His crystalline features showed confusion. "Marshal, the target world is unusual." "Explain." "The planet they call Earth shows signs of being a death world, but the inhabitants seem weak." The captain paused, checking his data again. "Their world has massive storms that can destroy cities. They have earthquakes that split the ground open. Their oceans create waves tall as mountains. Wild animals hunt and kill them. Diseases spread among them regularly. Violent weather changes kill thousands at a time." Vexnoth leaned forward, interested. "Sounds like a proper death world. What makes you think they are weak?" "They have no natural armor, Commander. No claws, no venom, no enhanced strength. Their skin is soft and tears easily. They seem to require tools for everything. They even need machines to fly, and clothing to survive their own weather." General Zephyron Prime's metallic voice buzzed with amusement. "Tools and machines? How pathetic. A true Deathworld warrior needs nothing but what nature provided." The scout captain continued his report. "Their military seems small and poorly equipped compared to ours. They have some space travel capability, but their weapons appear primitive. Most curious of all, they seem to spend much of their time on activities that serve no combat purpose. They create art, music, stories. They keep small animals as companions rather than food. They even have areas of their cities dedicated only to plants and beauty." Krekthar felt disappointment wash over him. Another soft species that would fall in days, maybe hours. "How many of them are there?" "Approximately 8 billion on the main world, Marshal. Several million more spread across small colonies in their system." 8 billion, Vexnoth repeated, his mandibles clicking with dark pleasure. "That will be entertaining. It has been too long since we had a proper massacre." "What are their defenses?" asked Zephyron Prime. "Minimal space stations, a small fleet of perhaps 200 ships. Nothing that could threaten even our advanced scouts. They seem to prefer talking to fighting. Several of their communication attempts have requested peaceful contact and trade negotiations." The three commanders looked at each other and began to laugh. It was a sound that would have terrified most species in the galaxy. The laugh of the Deathworld Alliance meant death was coming. "Peace," Krekthar said, his voice dripping with contempt. "Trade. These humans think their little Deathworld makes them special. They think surviving storms and wild animals makes them warriors. They have no idea what real Deathworld warriors look like." "Should we bother with the usual warnings, Marshal?" asked Vexnoth. "No. This will be over too quickly for ceremony. We will arrive, destroy their defenses, and take their world. The survivors can serve as slaves, though I doubt many will survive our arrival." Krekthar turned to address his fleet. Across 300 ships, warriors from dozens of conquered Deathworlds waited for his command. Each ship carried soldiers who had proven themselves in combat against the galaxy's most dangerous creatures and environments. Warriors of the Alliance, his voice boomed across the fleet communications. We move to claim another world. The inhabitants call themselves human, and their world Earth. They believe living on a world with weather and wild animals makes them strong. They will learn what strength truly means when they face those who conquered the volcanic hells of Pyraxis, the acid storms of Korox, and the radiation wastes of Nexus Prime. Cheers erupted across the fleet. The sound of warriors eager for battle filled the communication channels. Prepare for jump to their system. We will show these humans what happens when soft creatures dare to call their gentle world by the same name we give to our killing grounds. Earth means dirt in their language, and dirt they shall become. The massive fleet began to move. Ships that had seen 1,000 battles turned toward the human system. In the cargo holds, weapons that had leveled countless worlds waited to be used again. Soldiers who had never known defeat sharpened their claws and prepared their armor. None of them noticed the small detail in the scout reports that should have worried them. The humans had survived on their death world for over 200,000 years without natural weapons or armor. They had not only survived but thrived, growing from a few thousand to 8 billion. Their cities covered their continents, and their influence reached into space. The Alliance had never encountered a species that conquered a death world through intelligence and cooperation, rather than individual strength. They had never faced a species that turned their entire world into a weapon through technology and cunning. They had never met a species that hid their true nature behind peaceful words and gentle faces. Most importantly, they had never fought a species whose greatest weapon was not their individual strength, but what they became when their families were threatened. As the Deathworld Alliance ships jumped toward the human system, they carried with them the confidence of 3 centuries of easy victories. They expected another quick conquest, another weak species to crush under their boots. They had no idea they were about to wake something that had been sleeping peacefully for generations. Something that had been pretending to be harmless while quietly becoming the most dangerous thing the galaxy had ever seen. The humans were waiting. The Deathworld Alliance fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the human solar system. 300 ships of death and destruction spread out in perfect battle formation, their weapons powered up with the hungry hum of machines built for killing. War Marshal Krekthar studied the tactical display on his bridge. The human defenses were exactly as pathetic as the scouts had reported. A few small space stations orbited their homeworld. Less than 200 ships of primitive design floated between the Alliance fleet and their target. "Marshal," reported his weapons officer, "the humans are attempting to communicate. Put them through. Let us hear what these soft creatures have to say before we destroy them." The main screen flickered to life, showing a human face. The being looked fragile, with soft pink skin and small dark eyes. No visible weapons or armor. Hair grew from the top of its head in an arrangement that served no combat purpose. When it spoke, its voice was calm and pleasant. "Welcome to our solar system," the human said. "I am Ambassador Sarah Chen of the United Earth Government. We have detected your arrival and would like to establish peaceful contact. We have prepared a diplomatic vessel to meet with your representatives. We hope we can discuss trade, cultural exchange, and mutual cooperation." Commander Vexanath's mandibles clicked with amusement. "Look at this pathetic creature. It thinks we came here to talk." General Zephron Prime's metallic voice buzzed with contempt. "Peaceful contact. Cultural exchange. These humans truly have no idea who they are dealing with." Krekthar decided to follow Alliance tradition. Before every conquest, they gave their enemies one chance to understand their situation. It made the fear more delicious when reality set in. "Human," he said, his crystalline voice cutting through space like a blade. "I am War Marshal Krekthar of the Deathworld Alliance. We do not seek peace or trade. We seek conquest. Your world will surrender immediately, or we will take it by force. You have 1 hour to decide." The human ambassador's face showed confusion. "I think there may be a misunderstanding. We are a peaceful species. We have no desire for conflict. Surely we can find a solution that benefits everyone." "There is no misunderstanding," Vexnath growled, pushing into the communication feed. "We are warriors from worlds that tried to kill us every day of our lives. We have conquered half the galaxy. Your soft little world will fall like all the others." The human looked between the 3 Alliance commanders. Something changed in its eyes, but Krekthar could not identify what it was. Fear, perhaps. Or confusion, I see, the ambassador said quietly. You refuse all diplomatic solutions? We refuse weakness, Zephyron Prime stated. Surrender now and some of your people may live as slaves. Resist and we will destroy your entire species. The human was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice carried a strange tone that the Alliance commanders did not recognize. They had heard fear, anger, and desperation from countless species. This was something different. Very well, Ambassador Chen said. Since you refuse peace, I must inform you that a diplomatic vessel is approaching your position. It carries my daughter and 3 other young diplomats who volunteered to make contact with you. They believed, as I did, that any intelligent species could be reasoned with. I suppose we were wrong. Your offspring means nothing to us, Krekthar declared. All humans are equally worthless. I understand, the ambassador replied. You should know that I am recording this conversation. When your war crimes are discovered by the rest of the galaxy, they will know that you were offered peace and chose slaughter instead. The communication ended. Within minutes, a small human ship appeared on their sensors, approaching slowly with no weapons powered. It broadcast peaceful intentions and requests for safe passage to conduct negotiations. Krekthar looked at his weapons officer. Destroy it, Marshal. I said destroy it. Show these humans what happens to those who offer weakness when we demand strength. The weapons officer hesitated for only a moment, then followed orders. A single blast from the flagship's main cannon vaporized the diplomatic vessel instantly. There was nothing left but expanding gas and debris. Across the Alliance fleet, warriors cheered. Another enemy ship destroyed. Another small victory to add to their centuries of conquest. They had sent a message that the humans could not misunderstand. Excellent, Vexenoth said. Now they know we mean business. Watch them flee in terror. But the human ships did not flee. Instead, something unexpected happened. Every human vessel in the system stopped moving. The space stations went silent. Even the communication channels that had been buzzing with activity fell completely quiet. What are they doing? Zephyron Prime asked. Before anyone could answer, the communication system activated again. This time, the face that appeared was different. It was the same human ambassador, but something had changed. The soft features had hardened. The kind eyes had become cold as deep space. When she spoke, her voice carried a tone that made even Deathworld Alliance warriors feel uncomfortable. I am Admiral Chen Wei of the Terran Defense Force, she said. You have just murdered my daughter. Your title means nothing, Krekthar began, but the human continued speaking as if he had not said anything. You wanted to see what a real Deathworld produces? You wanted to meet real Deathworld warriors? Allow me to introduce you to humanity's ultimate weapon. What weapon? Vexenoth demanded. We see no superweapons, no massive fleets. What could you possibly have that threatens us? Admiral Chen's smile was the most terrifying thing any of the Alliance commanders had ever seen. It held no warmth, no mercy, no fear. It was the smile of a predator that had just decided to stop pretending to be prey. Our ultimate weapon is not a device or a ship or an energy beam, she said quietly. It is what happens when you threaten our families. You have just removed every restraint, every moral limitation, every trace of mercy that kept us civilized. You wanted to see Deathworld warriors. You are about to discover what 8 billion humans become when they stop being nice. Impossible, Krekthar snarled. You are weak, soft creatures with no natural weapons. You are right, Admiral Chen agreed. We have no claws, no armor, no venom. We are weak and soft and fragile, but you made one critical error in your intelligence gathering. What error? You assumed that natural weapons make the best killers. You never considered what happens when the most intelligent species in the galaxy decides that something needs to die. The communication ended again. But this time, the silence felt different. It was not the silence of fear or confusion. It was the silence of something dangerous waking up. Across the human fleet, ships began to move. But they did not attack or flee. Instead, they retreated deeper into their solar system, spreading out and disappearing behind planets and asteroid fields. They run, Vexenoth said with satisfaction, as expected. But Krekthar felt uneasy. In 300 years of conquest, no species had ever retreated with such coordination and purpose. Most enemies either attacked immediately in desperate fury, or fled the system entirely in terror. The humans were doing neither. They were regrouping, and somehow that felt far more dangerous than any attack could have been. Begin the advance, Krekthar ordered. We will follow them to their homeworld and finish this quickly. As the Alliance fleet moved deeper into the human system, none of them noticed the small objects that had been left floating in space where the human ships had been. They looked like ordinary debris, the kind of junk that accumulated around any inhabited system. The Alliance had never encountered a species that turned everything into a weapon. They had never fought an enemy that planned not just battles but entire wars before the first shot was fired. They were about to learn. 3 days after the diplomatic vessel's destruction, the Deathworld Alliance learned their first lesson about humanity. The lesson came in the form of an explosion that destroyed 12 of their ships simultaneously. War Marshal Krekthar stood on his bridge, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. The debris field that had seemed harmless was now a field of destruction. The objects the humans had left behind were not junk. They were mines carefully designed to look like ordinary space debris until the moment they detonated. How? Commander Vexnoth demanded. Our sensors detected no weapons, no energy signatures. Simple technology, reported the weapons officer. Chemical explosives wrapped in metal to look like broken ship parts. No electronic components to detect. They activated when our ships came within range. General Zephyron Prime's metallic voice buzzed with irritation. Clever, but 12 ships mean nothing. We still have almost 300 vessels. Krekthar was not so confident. In 3 centuries of conquest, no enemy had ever used such deception. The Alliance fought through strength and fear. Their enemies either fought back with honor or surrendered in terror. None had ever hidden weapons disguised as harmless objects. Marshal, called the communications officer, we are receiving a transmission from the human homeworld. Put it through. Admiral Chen's face appeared on screen again. She stood on what appeared to be a military command center. But Krekthar could see something disturbing in the background. Humans of all ages were working frantically on various projects. Children sat next to adults assembling small devices. Elderly humans operated complex machinery. Everyone was working with the focused intensity of people preparing for war. I hope you enjoyed our welcome gift, Admiral Chen said calmly. Those mines were built by a class of 10-year-old students as a school science project. The teacher thought it would be educational to show them how basic chemistry could be weaponized. Children? Vexnoth snarled. You use your young as weapon makers? Not usually, the Admiral replied. But you see, you made a mistake when you killed my daughter. You declared war not just on our military but on our families. When humans feel their children are threatened, everyone becomes a soldier. As if to prove her point, the screen showed a wider view of the command center. Krekthar could see humans of every age and profession working together. A small human child handed a completed device to an adult in military uniform. An elderly human adjusted the settings on what looked like a communications array. What you are seeing, Admiral Chen continued, is 8 billion humans who have just learned that peaceful coexistence with your species is impossible. Every parent, every grandparent, every teacher and student has decided that you represent a threat to their families. They are responding accordingly. You think your entire population can fight us? Krekthar laughed. We are warriors trained from birth. You are soft civilians who play with art and music. You are absolutely right, Admiral Chen agreed. We are not warriors. We are something far more dangerous. We are problem solvers who have just identified you as a problem that needs solving. The communication ended. Within hours, the Alliance learned what that meant. It started with the asteroid belt. The humans had mining operations scattered throughout the rocky field between their 4th and 5th planets. The Alliance had noted these installations but considered them harmless. Miners were not soldiers and mining equipment was not weapons. They were wrong on both counts. The first kinetic bombardment struck the Alliance fleet 2 hours after sunset on the human homeworld. A chunk of iron and nickel the size of a small building, accelerated to near light speed by mining equipment, punched through 3 Alliance ships like they were made of paper. Impossible, Zephyron Prime stated as damage reports flooded in. Mining equipment cannot achieve those velocities. Human mining equipment can, reported the science officer. They have modified their asteroid processing systems into mass drivers. Every mining station in the belt is now a weapon capable of launching projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Before Krekthar could respond, proximity alarms began screaming. More projectiles were incoming. The Alliance fleet scattered, but the humans had calculated their movements. 7 more ships died under the rain of accelerated asteroids. Return fire, Krekthar commanded. Destroy their mining stations. The Alliance weapons found their targets easily. Mining stations were not military installations. They had no armor, no shields, no defenses. The Alliance weapons tore them apart with contemptuous ease, but the humans had already abandoned them. And worse, they had learned something valuable from watching Alliance weapons fire. They now knew exactly how powerful Alliance shields were, how fast their ships could move, and how their targeting systems worked. The next attack came from an unexpected direction. A human passenger liner, the kind used to transport civilians between colonies, approached the Alliance fleet under a flag of truce. It claimed to be carrying refugees who wanted to surrender. Vexnoth wanted to destroy it immediately, but Krekthar was curious. Let the humans grovel. Let them beg for mercy. It would be satisfying to reject their pleas before killing them. The passenger liner came within communication range and requested permission to dock with the Alliance flagship. The human captain appeared on screen, tears streaming down his face. Please, he begged. We have 3,000 civilians aboard. Families with children. We know we cannot fight you. We want to surrender. We will serve as slaves, anything. Just do not kill our children. It was exactly what Krekthar expected from these weak creatures. Bring your ship alongside. Prepare to be boarded. The passenger liner moved slowly toward the flagship. Its engines were barely functioning, and it leaked atmosphere from several hull breaches. It looked like exactly what it claimed to be, a civilian vessel fleeing a hopeless war. When it exploded, the blast was large enough to destroy the Alliance flagship and 6 escort vessels. The passenger liner had been carrying 3,000 people, just as the captain claimed. But they were not refugees, they were volunteers. 3,000 humans who had decided that killing 7 Alliance ships was worth their lives. As Krekthar died in the explosion, his last thought was confusion. What kind of species willingly sacrifice thousands of their own people for a tactical advantage? What kind of civilians chose to die rather than surrender? Commander Vexnoth assumed command from his own ship, but he was shaken. The Alliance fought for conquest and glory. They understood dying in battle for honor or personal strength, but they could not understand dying for others, especially dying for people not even related to you. Sir, reported his communications officer, we are receiving multiple transmissions from across the human system. The screen lit up with dozens of human faces. Men, women, children, elderly civilians. All of them were speaking at once, but their message was the same. You killed our families. You killed our friends. You wanted a war. Now you have one. But these were not military personnel making threats. These were bakers and teachers and farmers and musicians. These were people who had never held weapons or fought battles. Yet somehow they were the most terrifying enemy the Alliance had ever faced, because they were not fighting for conquest or glory or personal honor. They were fighting because someone had threatened their children, and they had just demonstrated that they would do absolutely anything, sacrifice absolutely everything, to protect their families. As more human ships approached from every direction, Vexnoth realized the horrible truth. The Alliance had not invaded a world of soft civilians. They had invaded a world of 8 billion parents, and every single one of them had just decided that the Alliance needed to die. The real war was about to begin. 2 weeks into what they had expected to be a simple conquest, the Deathworld Alliance was learning that humans were not like any enemy they had ever faced. They did not fight like warriors. They fought like something far worse. They fought like humans. Commander Vexnoth, now in command after Krekthar's death, stood in his private quarters reading reports that made no sense. His mandibles clicked nervously as he tried to understand what was happening to his forces. A Morthak strike team had been eliminated on a captured space station by a single human female. The security footage showed an elderly woman with gray hair who moved with deadly precision through corridors she obviously knew by heart. She used improvised weapons, cleaning chemicals that ate through Morthak armor, maintenance tools turned into traps, even the station's own gravity system to crush warriors in elevators. When they finally cornered her, she activated an explosive device she had built from spare parts. The blast killed her and took out the entire strike team. The device was later identified as being constructed from children's toys, household batteries, and fertilizer from the station's garden. A grandmother, Vexnoth muttered. A human grandmother eliminated 12 of our best warriors using toys and plant food. The reports got worse. A human cargo ship had been intercepted carrying what appeared to be trade goods. When Alliance soldiers boarded it, they found the cargo containers filled with a modified virus that specifically targeted Shalvek respiratory systems. The human crew had died from exposure to their own weapon rather than be taken prisoner. Most disturbing of all, the virus had been created by human children. Students at something called a university had designed it as part of their studies, then volunteered to test it on themselves to ensure it was deadly enough. General Zephron Prime's metallic voice crackled over the communication system. "Commander, I have more troubling news. Our supply lines are under constant attack." "Explain." "The humans are not fighting like any military we know. They do not have ranks or units or command structures. Instead, they appear to be organized into small groups based on their previous occupations. Teachers work with students to create new weapons. Factory workers modify their equipment to produce military supplies. Even artists are contributing." "Artists? How can artists threaten us?" "They have been studying our psychology, Commander. Human musicians have discovered that certain sound frequencies disrupt morphic neural pathways. They broadcast these sounds during our attacks, causing our soldiers to lose coordination and collapse. Human writers have been creating propaganda that somehow makes our own troops question their orders." Vexnoth felt a chill run through his chitinous body. "How do they know our weaknesses?" "They learn, Commander. Every battle, every encounter, they gather data. They study our weapons, our tactics, our biology. Then they share this information across their entire population instantly. What one human learns, they all learn." It was true. Humans had something the Alliance had never encountered. A species-wide communication network that allowed instant sharing of information. When one human discovered that Shalvek crystal armor was vulnerable to specific radio frequencies, every human in the system knew it within hours. When a human child figured out that Zephron metal skin conducted electricity in unexpected ways, that information spread to every human resistance cell immediately. Within days, humans were using simple electrical devices to disable Alliance soldiers. "Sir," interrupted the communications officer, "we have a problem. Several of our ships are reporting strange malfunctions." "What kind of malfunctions?" "Life support failures, weapons systems shutting down, navigation errors." "The technical teams cannot find the cause." Vexnoth suspected he knew the answer. "Run full security scans on all captured human equipment." The results confirmed his fears. Every piece of human technology they had seized contained hidden programs, carefully designed to activate weeks after capture. The humans had been planning for their own defeat from the beginning. Human computers that seemed to contain valuable intelligence actually carried viruses that infected Alliance systems. Human medical supplies that appeared useful were actually poison designed to kill specific Alliance species. Even human clothing contained materials that would degrade Alliance equipment over time. But the worst discovery was yet to come. "Commander," reported the science officer, "we have detected multiple human ships approaching from outside the system." "Reinforcements?" Vexnoth asked hopefully. "At least human military ships they could understand and fight." "No, sir. These appear to be civilian vessels from human colonies. Cargo ships, passenger liners, mining vessels, but they have all been modified. The modifications were unlike anything the Alliance had seen. Humans had taken ordinary civilian spacecraft and turned them into weapons of war. Passenger ships now carried enough explosives to destroy dreadnoughts. Cargo vessels had been fitted with weapons that violated several galactic treaties. Mining ships had become mobile fortresses bristling with makeshift armor and guns. But the most terrifying part was not the ships themselves. It was who was flying them. "Sir, we are receiving communications from the approaching vessels." The main screen filled with human faces. These were not soldiers or government officials. They were ordinary people, shopkeepers, farmers, teachers, mechanics. They came from human colonies scattered across dozens of star systems, and they had all dropped everything to come fight. A human female with kind eyes and gentle features spoke for the group. "We are from the colony of New Geneva," she said calmly. "We heard that someone killed human children. We have come to help." Her ship, according to sensors, had been a civilian transport 3 weeks ago. Now it carried enough firepower to threaten a battleship. Another human, this one an elderly male, appeared on screen. "I am from the farming world of Terra Verde. My grandson was supposed to visit Earth next month. We came as soon as we heard. His vessel had been an agricultural transport. Now it was armed with weapons that the Alliance science teams could not even identify. One by one, humans from across space introduced themselves. They had traveled from dozens of worlds, abandoning their jobs, their homes, their comfortable lives. They had come because someone had threatened human children, and that was enough. How many ships? Vexnoth asked quietly. Over 2,000 confirmed, sir. More arriving every hour. The Alliance had started this war with 300 ships crewed by professional warriors from the galaxy's most dangerous worlds. Now they faced thousands of human civilians who had transformed themselves into something far more dangerous than any army. Because armies fought for pay or glory or conquest, these humans were fighting for something that made them unstoppable: love. Vexnoth watched the human fleet spread out around his forces and realized with growing horror that the Alliance was trapped. Not by superior weapons or greater numbers, but by something they had never encountered before. They were trapped by an entire species that had decided they needed to die, and the humans were just getting started. On the main screen, Admiral Chen appeared again. Her face showed no anger, no hatred, no joy in battle. She simply looked tired, like someone forced to do an unpleasant but necessary job. "Commander Vexnoth," she said, "you have seen what happens when you threaten human families. This is your last chance to withdraw from our system and never return. Choose quickly. My people are becoming more creative every hour, and I am running out of ways to restrain them." Vexnoth looked around his bridge at his remaining officers. These were warriors who had never known defeat, soldiers who had conquered dozens of worlds. Now they watched the human fleet with something they had never felt before: fear, not fear of death. Deathworld warriors were not afraid to die. They were afraid of how the humans would kill them. 6 months after the first shot was fired, the mighty Deathworld Alliance was running for their lives. The species that had conquered half the galaxy now fled in terror from a small blue world and its fragile inhabitants. Commander Vexnoth stood on the bridge of his flagship, one of only 37 Alliance ships remaining from the original fleet of 300. Behind them, human vessels pursued like predators chasing wounded prey. The humans no longer even tried to hide their ships or use clever tactics. They simply hunted openly, confidently, like apex predators who knew their quarry could not escape. "Sir," reported his weapons officer, "human ships have surrounded Piraxis." Vexnoth felt his internal organs freeze. Piraxis was the Shalvek homeworld, the volcanic hell that had forged his allies into perfect warriors. If the humans had reached it, then nowhere in Alliance space was safe. How many ships? "Over 10,000, sir. They appear to be civilian vessels from across human space, all modified for combat." 10,000 ships. The humans had somehow built a fleet larger than anything the Alliance had ever assembled, and they had done it in 6 months using converted civilian craft. It should have been impossible, but the humans had done many impossible things during this war. They had turned every piece of technology into a weapon. Human children's computers became guidance systems for missiles. Human kitchen appliances were modified into chemical weapons. Human musical instruments were repurposed to disrupt alien nervous systems. They had weaponized their own biology. Human doctors had created diseases specifically designed to kill Alliance species. Human athletes had volunteered for surgical modifications that turned them into living weapons. Human artists had painted images that somehow caused psychological trauma in alien viewers. Most terrifying of all, they had weaponized their compassion. Humans who had never hurt anyone in their lives became efficient killers the moment their families were threatened. Peaceful scientists became war criminals. Gentle teachers became tactical geniuses. Kind grandparents became assassins. "Sir, we are receiving a communication from the human fleet at Piraxis." Admiral Chen's face appeared on screen. She looked older than she had 6 months ago, worn down by the constant warfare, but her eyes still held that terrifying calm that had marked her from the beginning. "Commander Vexnoth," she said, "I am speaking to you from orbit around your homeworld. Your people below have been educated about the consequences of threatening human families." The screen shifted to show the surface of Piraxis. The volcanic world that had seemed unconquerable was now marked with massive craters where human weapons had struck. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were burning ruins. The lava flows that had shaped Shalvek warriors for millennia were now contaminated with human chemical weapons that made them deadly even to their native species. "This is what happens," Admiral Chen continued. When you mistake our kindness for weakness, you thought we were soft because we chose peace. You thought we were weak because we showed mercy. You never understood that peace and mercy are choices we make, not limitations we suffer. What do you want? Vexnoth asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Unconditional surrender. All Alliance forces will lay down their weapons immediately. All Alliance territory will be turned over to human administration. All Alliance leaders will submit to trial for war crimes. And if we refuse? Admiral Chen's smile was the same terrifying expression she had shown 6 months ago when her daughter died. Then we will continue our work. Koroks is already falling. The acid rains that your people thought made them strong are nothing compared to what human chemistry can create. Nexus Prime will be next. Our physicists are very interested in studying how radiation affects different metals. Vexnoth understood. The humans were not just defeating the Alliance. They were systematically destroying everything that made the Alliance species special. They were proving that no natural adaptation, no matter how extreme, could stand against human intelligence and determination. You would commit genocide? He asked. No, Admiral Chen replied calmly. Genocide is the systematic destruction of a people. What we are doing is pest control. You declared yourselves to be a threat to human families. We are simply solving that problem. The distinction was horrifying. The humans did not see the Alliance as enemies to be defeated with honor. They saw them as dangerous animals to be eliminated with efficiency. However, the Admiral continued, we are not monsters. Surrender now, and your people will be allowed to live. They will be relocated to reservation worlds where they can practice their warrior culture without threatening anyone else. Refuse, and we will continue our extermination. Vexnoth looked around his bridge. His officers, warriors who had never shown fear in battle, were now trembling. They had seen what human creativity could do when unleashed. They had watched their strongest soldiers fall to weapons made from toys and household items. They had seen their most powerful ships destroyed by converted civilian craft. Most importantly, they had learned that humans were not just intelligent. They were intelligently malicious when their families were threatened. Every human, from the smallest child to the oldest adult, could become a weapon designer, a strategist, a killer. Sir, whispered his communications officer, more reports coming in from across Alliance space. Human fleets have appeared at every major world simultaneously. They are demanding immediate surrender. Simultaneous attacks across hundreds of star systems. It should have required thousands of ships and millions of soldiers. But the humans had done it with civilian volunteers and improvised weapons. They had turned their entire species into a military force while maintaining their civilian government and peaceful society. They were still the same humans who created art and music and literature. They still cared for small animals and grew flowers in their cities. They still preferred talking to fighting and peace to war, but they had proven that a species could be both gentle and absolutely ruthless. They could be both peaceful and utterly deadly. They could love their families so much that they would destroy entire civilizations to protect them. Admiral, Vexnoth said quietly, the Deathworld Alliance surrenders unconditionally. Wise choice, Admiral Chen replied. You will follow our ships to the designated worlds where you will be processed. Any attempt to resist or escape will result in immediate termination. The communication ended. Across Alliance space, the greatest military force the galaxy had ever known began laying down their weapons and preparing for exile. As the human ships moved to escort them to their new homes, Vexnoth had one final terrifying realization. The humans had held back during this entire war. They had never used their most powerful weapons, never deployed their full scientific knowledge, never unleashed their complete potential for destruction. They had defeated the Deathworld Alliance while restraining themselves out of mercy. Word of the Alliance's defeat spread quickly across the galaxy. Other aggressive species quietly abandoned their expansion plans. Warlords and conquerors looked at their own forces and realized they had nothing that could stand against human ingenuity. Backed by parental instinct, the galaxy had learned a lesson that would echo through history. There were far worse things than Deathworld warriors. There were Deathworld protectors who had been holding themselves back out of kindness. And that kindness should never, ever be mistaken for weakness. Years later, when alien children asked why no one dared threaten the peaceful humans, their parents would tell them the story of the Deathworld Alliance. They would explain how the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy had made the mistake of threatening human families. They would end with a warning that every species now understood. Humanity did not conquer the galaxy through strength. They conquered it by finally showing everyone what they had been protecting the galaxy from: themselves. The humans returned to their art, their music, their peaceful lives among flowers and small animals. But the galaxy would never forget what they had revealed about their true nature. They were not warriors. They were something far more dangerous. They were parents, and they would do absolutely anything to protect their children. They sent humans to a Class 15 Deathworld, and everything went awry. The meeting room on Galactic Station Prime buzzed with quiet conversation. 12 alien representatives sat around a crystal table that glowed with soft blue light. Each being looked different from the others. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like walking trees. But they all shared one thing: they were tired of dealing with humans. Council leader Vorthak tapped his claws on the table. His lizard-like face showed clear annoyance. "The humans have caused problems again," he said in his deep voice. "Last month they refused to follow mining laws on Titan 7. Before that they built colonies where they were not supposed to. They never listened to our rules." The other council members nodded. A bird-like being named Kalara spread her feathers in anger. "They are too bold, too willing to take risks. They act like they own the galaxy." Zephyr, who looked like a large gray seal, made gurgling sounds of agreement. "My people have followed galactic law for 3,000 years. These humans have been in space for only 200 years, and they think they know better than us." Vorthak smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "I have a solution. A perfect solution." He pressed a button and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed a planet covered in dark clouds. Lightning flashed through the atmosphere. The surface looked angry and dangerous. "This is Kepler 442c, Vorthak said. "We call it a Class 15 Deathworld. It is the most dangerous type of planet we know." The other council members leaned forward to look. Even through the hologram, the planet looked scary. "The temperature changes from very cold to very hot in just a few hours," Vorthak continued. "The air pressure would crush most of our people. The storms are so strong they can destroy ships. Every animal and plant on this world has evolved to kill." Kellara tilted her head. "How is this a solution?" "Yesterday I received a request from a human research ship. They want permission to study this planet. They think it will be a simple biology mission." Vorthak's smile grew wider. "We will give them exactly what they asked for." The room fell silent. Then Zephyr made a sound that might have been a laugh. "They will all die." "Yes," Vorthak said, "but it will not be our fault. They asked for the mission. We are simply giving them what they wanted. When they fail, other humans will see what happens when they do not respect galactic law." Dr. Thane, a mushroom-like being, spoke up. His voice was soft and worried. "Is this not murder?" "No," Vorthak said quickly. "This is education. The humans need to learn their limits. Better they learn now than cause bigger problems later." The vote was quick. 10 members agreed. Only Dr. Thane and one other voted against the plan. 3 days later, the human research ship Endeavor's Pride received official permission for their mission. Captain Martinez read the message to his crew with excitement. "Kepler 442c has been approved for our biological survey," he announced over the ship's communication system. "The Galactic Council calls it a unique ecosystem. This could be the discovery of our careers." Dr. Sarah Chen, the mission's lead scientist, looked at the planet data on her screen. She frowned at some of the readings. The weather patterns looked extreme, and the atmospheric pressure was very high. But the diversity of life signs was amazing. 200 species we've never seen before, she told her assistant Dr. James Park. Maybe more. The council was right to call this unique. The ship carried 200 of Earth's best scientists, engineers, and support staff. They had standard equipment for a 6-month mission. Prefabricated shelters, food supplies, research tools, and emergency medical equipment filled the cargo holds. As they approached Kepler 442c, the planet looked even more dangerous than the images had shown. Lightning storms covered half the surface. The other half was frozen under thick ice. The boundary between the two zones moved constantly. "Are you sure about this, Doc?" Captain Martinez asked Dr. Chen as they prepared to land. "The readings show complex ecosystems," Chen replied. "Where there's life, there's usually a way for more life to exist. We just need to be careful and follow proper safety procedures." The landing was rough. Strong winds pushed their shuttles around like toys. The atmospheric pressure made everyone's ears pop painfully. The first team to step outside had to wear full environmental suits. The landscape around their landing site looked like something from a nightmare. Black rocks jutted up from red soil. Steam rose from cracks in the ground. In the distance, they could see forests of trees that looked more like giant thorns than normal plants. Temperature is minus 38 degrees Celsius, reported Dr. Park, reading from his instruments. But the computer says it will hit plus 55 in about 6 hours. How is that possible? Asked Martinez. The planet has a very strange rotation, Chen explained. Plus, the atmosphere traps and releases heat in unusual ways. We'll need to adjust our schedules around these temperature swings. As they set up their base camp, strange sounds came from the forest. Howls, screeches, and sounds they had no names for echoed across the landscape. Something large moved between the thorn trees, but it stayed hidden in the shadows. The motion detectors are going crazy, reported Security Chief Williams. There's life everywhere, but I can't get a clear reading on what kind. That first night, the temperature dropped even further. Ice formed on their equipment. The emergency heaters worked overtime to keep their shelters warm. Outside, they could hear things moving around their camp. Scratching sounds on the walls, heavy footsteps that shook the ground. Maybe we should call for pickup, suggested Dr. Park as something roared nearby. We've been here 8 hours, Chen said firmly. Give it time. Life adapts. If these creatures can survive here, we can figure out how to coexist. Unknown to the humans, the Galactic Council's monitoring station had been tracking their biosignatures since landing. The alien operators expected to see the signals disappear within 72 hours. That was the longest any species had ever survived on Kepler 442c. The humans have been on the surface for 12 hours, reported the monitor operator to Vorthak. Their biosigns are still strong. It is early, Vorthak replied. The real dangers come after the first week. Their supplies will run low. The predators will find them. The storms will destroy their shelters. Be patient. But even as he spoke, Vorthak felt a small worry in his mind. Humans had surprised the galaxy before. They had survived in places where they should have died. They had made friends with species that should have been enemies. They had solved problems in ways no one expected. Still, this was different. This was a Class 15 Deathworld. Nothing could survive there for long, could it? On the planet's surface, Dr. Chen stood outside her shelter and looked up at the alien stars. The temperature was rising rapidly as the planet's strange day-night cycle continued. Soon it would be hot enough to cook them alive if they stayed outside. But in the distance she could see movement. Not the random movement of predators, but organized patterns, almost like civilization. James, she called to her assistant. Bring the long-range scanner. I think we're not alone here. The mission was supposed to last 6 months. The Galactic Council expected it to last 3 days. They were both wrong. 3 months had passed since the humans landed on Kepler 442c. In the Galactic Council monitoring station, alarm bells had stopped working weeks ago. The operators had broken them by hitting the emergency buttons too many times. This cannot be right, muttered Technician Kelmoth as he stared at his screen. Run the biosignature scan again. His partner, a slug-like creature named Borth, slid closer to look. I have run it 17 times today. The results are always the same. The humans are not just alive. Their health readings are better than when they landed. Kelmoth's 4 eyes blinked in different patterns, a sign of deep confusion among his people. Call Council Leader Vorthak. He needs to see this. When Vorthak arrived at the monitoring station an hour later, his confident smile had disappeared. The screen showed impossible things. The human camp had grown from a small cluster of emergency shelters to a sprawling settlement. Where once there had been barren red soil, green plants now grew in organized rows. How many humans are down there? Vorthak asked. Still 200, Borth replied. But they have built structures for at least 1,000 people. And look at this. Borth changed the display to show heat signatures. Large creatures moved peacefully around the human settlement. The same creatures that had been registered as deadly predators were now walking calmly near human children. The 6-legged death cats are domesticated, Kelmoth said in disbelief. The humans are using them like farm animals, and riding them. On the planet's surface, Dr. Sarah Chen was indeed riding a creature that looked like a cross between a saber-toothed tiger and a horse. The locals called them razorbacks because of the sharp spines along their backs. Chen had learned to ride them by studying their social behavior and offering them the right type of food. Easy, Thunder, she said, patting the creature's neck. The razorback purred, a sound like rocks grinding together. 3 months ago, these animals had tried to eat the humans. Now they competed to see who could carry researchers the fastest. Chen guided Thunder toward the newest section of their settlement. Here, human engineers worked alongside strange crystal beings that looked like walking diamonds. These beings had emerged from deep caves after the humans had been on the planet for 6 weeks. The crystal beings communicated through vibrations in rock and metal. Most species would have given up trying to talk to them. The humans had learned to tap out messages on metal plates with hammers. "Good morning." "Resonance of deep stones," Chen called out, tapping her greeting on a copper plate attached to her belt. The crystal being's body chimed like a bell. Through the metal translation device the humans had built, its words came out as, "Greetings, pack leader who learns fast. The new growing chambers are ready for your seed pods." Chen smiled. These beings had been alone for thousands of years. They remembered when other people lived on this planet, but those people had died long ago. The crystal beings had forgotten how to make many things. The humans were helping them remember, and in return, the crystal beings shared their knowledge of the planet. "Dr. Chen," called James Park as he jogged up to her. "You need to see what Engineering Team 3 found in the old ruins." Chen followed Park to a dig site near the crystal being's main cave system. Here, human archaeologists worked carefully to uncover ancient structures. What they had found made Chen's heart race with excitement. "It's a star map," explained Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, the team's lead archaeologist. "But not just any star map. Look at these symbols." The map was carved into a wall of the same crystal material as their new friends. It showed the locations of planets throughout the galaxy, but more importantly, it showed lines connecting the planets. "These are hyperspace routes," Chen realized. "But they're not the routes we use today. These are different. Faster, maybe?" One of the crystal beings approached them. This one was older and larger than the others. When it spoke, its voice resonated through every piece of metal in the area. "You have found the memory of paths," it said. "Our ancestors built the roads between stars long before the current peoples knew of space travel." Chen's translator device could barely handle the complex ideas in the crystal being's speech. "Your people built the hyperspace network?" "Not the one you use," the being replied. "That network is young and slow. We built a better one, but the knowledge was lost when the Great Dying came." "What Great Dying?" The crystal being's light dimmed with sadness. "A plague that turned minds to violence. Our people fought each other until only a few remained. We became simple and forgot our greatness, until you came." Meanwhile, the human engineers had solved practical problems in ways that amazed their new friends. The planet's extreme temperature swings had seemed like a deadly problem. Instead, the humans built machines that used the temperature differences to make electricity. Chief Engineer Martinez, the captain's younger brother, explained their power system to a group of crystal beings. When the hot side gets hot and the cold side stays cold, electricity flows through these metal strips. We call them thermoelectric generators. The crystal beings found this fascinating. They had always hidden from the temperature changes. The humans had learned to use them. The food situation had also improved in unexpected ways. The planet's soil was toxic to most Earth plants. Dr. Park had brought soil bacteria from Earth that somehow made the poisonous dirt safe for growing food. The bacteria ate the toxic chemicals and turned them into nutrients. "It should not work," Park told Chen as they walked through their greenhouse domes. "But the bacteria we brought are adapting faster than any biology textbook says is possible. It's like the planet is helping them evolve." Inside the greenhouses, Earth vegetables grew alongside native plants that the crystal beings had shown them how to farm. The combination created more food than either species could grow alone. But the biggest surprise came from the planet's weather itself. The humans had learned to predict the extreme storms and temperature swings. More than that, they had learned to use them. When the superheated winds came, they channeled them through wind generators. When the ice storms arrived, they collected the ice for fresh water. When lightning struck, which happened almost daily, they captured the electricity and battery systems the crystal beings had helped them build. "We're not fighting the planet anymore," Chen wrote in her daily report to Earth. "We're working with it." The Galactic Council monitoring station recorded every word of these reports. Forthick read them with growing alarm. "They are terraforming the planet," he told the other council members during an emergency meeting. "A Class 15 Deathworld is becoming a garden world under human influence." Kilara's feathers were flat against her body, a sign of fear. "How is this possible? Humans do not think like us," admitted Dr. Thane, the mushroom-like being who had voted against the plan. "We see a dangerous environment and try to protect ourselves from it. Humans see a dangerous environment and try to make friends with it. This gets worse," Vorthek continued. "Our deep space sensors show human ships heading toward Kepler 442c. Word has gotten out about their success. Other human colonies want to help." "How many ships?" asked Zephyr. 12 so far. Carrying families, more engineers, and terraforming specialists. Vorthek's scales had turned a pale color, the equivalent of a human going white with shock. "We tried to give them a tomb. Instead, we gave them a new world." On Kepler 442c, Chen stood on a hill overlooking their settlement as the sun set. 6 months ago, this had been lifeless rock. Now lights twinkled in dozens of buildings. Gardens filled with both Earth and alien plants spread in all directions. In the distance, herds of tamed razorbacks grazed peacefully. Thunder nudged her shoulder with his massive head. She scratched behind his ears, careful to avoid the razor spines. "You know what, Thunder?" she said to her mount. "I think we're going to like it here." The razorback purred his agreement. Above them, the first of the new human ships appeared as a bright star in the alien sky. Admiral Zethkar had commanded fleets for 40 years. He had seen wars, first contacts with new species, and the rise and fall of entire civilizations. Nothing in his experience had prepared him for the emergency briefing about Kepler 442c. "Repeat that," he said to the intelligence officer standing before his desk. Lieutenant Yathara, a nervous-looking being with tentacles instead of arms, shuffled through her data tablets. "Sir, the human settlement now has defensive capabilities that rank above most military bases. Their energy shields can stop meteor impacts. Their atmospheric processors are working so well that 3 different species have requested permission to build colonies there." On a Class 15 Deathworld, "Sir, it is no longer classified as a Deathworld. The Environmental Council changed it to Class 3 last week. They are talking about changing it to Class 2 next month." Zethkar's 4 hearts beat out of rhythm with stress. Class 2 worlds were garden paradises. The idea that Kepler 442c could become one was impossible. Yet the evidence sat in front of him. "Show me the tactical analysis," he ordered. A hologram appeared above his desk. It showed the human settlement from above. What had started as a small research camp now covered an area the size of a major city. Walls surrounded the outer edges, not primitive barriers but sophisticated defensive structures that hummed with energy. "The walls are made from a crystal metal alloy," Yathara explained. "The humans developed it by combining their metallurgy with technology from the native crystal beings. Our weapons experts estimate it would take orbital bombardment to break through. What about their military forces?" "That is the strange part, sir. They have almost no traditional weapons, but they have tamed the local predators. Over 300 trained razorbacks serve as cavalry. They have domesticated the burrowing acid spitters for siege work. And something they call storm riders." "Storm riders?" The hologram changed to show creatures Zethkar had never seen before. They looked like flying manta rays made of living lightning. Humans rode on their backs, soaring through the planet's constant storms. "The humans discovered these creatures living in the upper atmosphere," Yathara continued. "No one knew they existed because they only come down during the worst storms. The humans learned to communicate with them through electrical signals." Zethkar stared at the image of a human child riding a creature made of electricity through a hurricane. "Are the humans insane?" "No, sir. They are adaptable." The hologram shifted again to show the interior of the human settlement. Zethkar expected to see military facilities and weapons factories. Instead, he saw schools, hospitals, research centers, and art galleries. Human children played in parks alongside young crystal beings and baby razorbacks. "It looks like a normal city," he said in confusion. "Yes, sir. That is what makes it so dangerous. The humans have not built a military base. They have built a home, and they have made the local population their friends." This was the part that worried military strategists throughout the galaxy. Humans did not conquer planets in the traditional sense. They moved in, made friends with whoever lived there, and improved things for everyone. Before anyone realized what had happened, the humans had become impossible to remove. "How many humans are there now?" Zethkar asked. 1,500, sir. But more ships arrive every day. The humans are calling it their fastest-growing colony. "And the Galactic Council?" Yathara's tentacles curled with embarrassment. The Council is trying to pretend this was always the plan. They claim they knew the humans would succeed and that assigning them to Kepler 442c was intended to test their terraforming abilities. Zethkar stood up and walked to the large window of his command ship. Below him, the planet Kepler 442c rotated slowly. From space, he could see green areas spreading across what had once been barren continents. Weather patterns that had been chaotic now showed signs of organization. "Sir," Yathara said quietly, "there is more." "More? The humans have found something in the ancient ruins. Our long-range sensors detect energy signatures we do not recognize. Intelligence suggests they may have discovered technology from the predecessor civilization. Every spacefaring species knew about the predecessors, ancient beings who had built the original hyperspace network millions of years ago. Their technology was so advanced that modern science could barely understand it, and the humans had found it. Has anyone made contact with the human leadership?" Zethkar asked. "Ambassador Torres has requested a meeting with you, sir. He is already in the system." An hour later, Ambassador Carlos Torres sat across from Admiral Zethkar in the conference room of the command ship. Torres was a middle-aged human with graying hair and friendly eyes. He looked more like someone's grandfather than a diplomat dealing with a galactic crisis. "Admiral," Torres said with a warm smile, "thank you for meeting with me. I know this situation has caused concern. Ambassador, your people have turned a Deathworld into a military stronghold in less than 4 months." "Of course there is concern," Torres laughed. "Military stronghold? Admiral, have you seen our settlement? We have 3 kindergartens, a community theater, and the best botanical gardens in this sector. If that is a military stronghold, we are doing it wrong. You have defensive walls that can stop fleet bombardment. We have walls that can stop the meteor showers that happen here twice a month," Torres corrected. "The same technology protects us from space rocks and orbital weapons. Should we have built walls that only stop meteors?" Zethkar found himself unsure how to answer. The human had a point. "What about your tamed predators?" the Admiral tried. "You mean our livestock and pets?" Torres pulled out a small device and showed Zethkar a video. It showed a human child riding a baby razorback while laughing with joy. "My granddaughter loves her riding lessons. Much safer than the horses we have back on Earth. And the storm riders? Best weather monitoring system ever developed. They live in the storms, so they can predict weather changes days in advance. Very helpful for farming." For every military concern Zethkar raised, Torres had a peaceful explanation. The humans had not built a war machine. They had built a thriving community that happened to be extremely well defended. "Admiral," Torres said seriously, "I know the Council sent us to Kepler 442c hoping we would fail. We have the recorded communications to prove it." Zethkar's expression did not change, but inside he felt a chill. "We are not angry about this," Torres continued. "Honestly, we understand why the Council was frustrated with us. Humans can be difficult to work with sometimes. We ask too many questions. We ignore rules that do not make sense. We make friends with people we probably should not. Then what do you want?" "We want to make this right. Kepler 442c has become something wonderful. The crystal beings here are the descendants of the predecessors. They have knowledge that could help every species in the galaxy. Technology that could make space travel safer and planets more livable." Torres stood up and walked to the window. Below them, the planet looked green and peaceful. "We want to share this with everyone," he said, "but we want to do it the right way, with respect for the galactic community and proper oversight." "What kind of oversight?" "Let the best scientists from every species come to study here. Let them learn from the crystal beings. Let them see how humans and aliens can work together. Let this planet become an example of cooperation instead of conquest." Zethkar thought about this offer. It sounded reasonable. Too reasonable. "What is the catch, Ambassador?" Torres smiled. "No catch. Just one small request. We want the Galactic Council to be honest about what they tried to do. No more secret plans to get rid of species they do not like. No more death sentence disguised as scientific missions. And if the Council refuses, then we will be very disappointed," Torres said sadly, "and probably stop following galactic law entirely. Not out of anger, you understand. Just because we cannot trust a government that tries to murder people it disagrees with." Admiral Zethkar realized he was looking at the end of the galactic order as he knew it. The humans had turned the Council's trap into their greatest victory. They had made friends with the most ancient species in the galaxy, They had discovered technology that made them impossible to defeat, and they were still being polite about it. "I will deliver your message to the Council," he said finally. "Thank you, Admiral," Torres replied. "And please bring your family to visit Kepler 442c sometime. The crystal beings would love to meet them. They are very curious about other species." As Torres left the command ship, Zethkar stared down at the impossible green world below. Somehow the humans had turned everything upside down without firing a shot. The Galactic Assembly Hall had never been so crowded. Representatives from 200 species filled every seat, and many more watched through holographic links from their home worlds. The emergency session had been called after Ambassador Torres released the recorded communications from the Galactic Council. Council leader Vorthak stood at the central podium, his scales pale with stress. Around him, angry voices filled the air in dozens of languages. "Order," he shouted, but the noise continued. Species that had been quiet members of the galactic community for centuries were demanding answers. Everyone wanted to know if the Council had tried to murder the human expedition. Representative Kailnara of the Hegemony Fleet spoke first. Her people were warriors, but they followed strict honor codes. "Council leader Vorthak," she said in a voice that could cut metal, "did you intentionally send humans to their deaths on Kepler 442c? "The humans requested the mission," Vorthak replied weakly. "We simply approved their request." "That is not an answer," Kailnara snapped. "We have heard the recordings. You called it an elegant solution to the human problem. You expected them to die. You wanted them to die." The crowd erupted again. Species that had their own disagreements with Council policies began demanding investigations. The Aquatic Federation wanted to know if their recent colony assignments had been sabotage attempts. The Silicon Collective questioned whether their trade routes had been deliberately disrupted. In the middle of this chaos, Dr. Sarah Chen walked to the witness platform. The noise died down as beings throughout the galaxy recognized the woman who had turned a Deathworld into a paradise. "My name is Dr. Sarah Chen," she said simply. 4 months ago, the Council sent my team to study Kepler 442c. They told us it was a routine scientific mission. We believed them. She activated a holographic display showing images from their early days on the planet. The harsh landscape, the dangerous storms, the deadly predators. "This is what we found," she continued. "Everything the Council said about the planet was true. It was deadly. It was hostile. By all normal standards, we should have died within days." Murmurs of agreement came from the audience. Everyone had seen the classified reports about Class 15 Deathworlds. "But we did not die," Chen said. "We adapted. We learned. We made friends with the native crystal beings. And we discovered something amazing." The display changed to show the ancient star maps they had found in the ruins. "The crystal beings are not just natives of Kepler 442c, Chen announced. They are the descendants of the predecessors, the beings who built the original hyperspace network millions of years ago." Gasps echoed through the assembly hall. The predecessors were legends. Their technology was the foundation of galactic civilization. For thousands of years, the crystal beings have been alone, reduced to a simple existence by an ancient plague that destroyed their civilization, Chen continued. They remembered pieces of their history, but not enough to rebuild their technology. Until we arrived. The display showed human engineers working alongside crystal beings, sharing knowledge and rebuilding ancient machines. Together, we have begun to rediscover predecessor technology. Faster hyperspace travel, better energy sources, communication systems that work instantly across any distance, medical devices that can cure diseases we thought were impossible to treat. The assembly fell completely silent. This was bigger than political disputes or colony rights. This was about the future of galactic civilization. "But here is the important part," Chen said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast hall. "The crystal beings want to share this knowledge with everyone. They do not want to repeat the mistakes that destroyed their ancestors. They want to build a galaxy where all species work together." She paused and looked directly at the council members. "They do not trust governments that try to murder people they disagree with." Council leader Vorthak stood up angrily. "The humans violated dozens of galactic regulations. They colonized a world without permission. They made first contact without following proper protocols. They turned your death trap into a miracle," interrupted Dr. Thane, the mushroom-like being who had opposed the original plan. They did what we said was impossible. And now you are angry because they survived. The crowd erupted again, but this time the anger was directed at the council. Representative after representative stood up to demand Vorthak's resignation. Ambassador Torres took the platform next. Unlike Chen, he did not look angry. He looked sad. "My friends," he said quietly, and somehow his voice carried over the noise. "We are not here to blame anyone. We are here to fix a broken system." The hall gradually grew quiet. "For too long, the Galactic Council has made decisions in secret," Torres continued. "They have decided which species deserve help and which deserve punishment. They have forgotten that their job is to serve all of us, not rule over us." He gestured toward the holographic display, which now showed images of the thriving settlement on Kepler 442c. "Look at what we built when we worked together. Humans, crystal beings, and even some of the planet's predators, all working as partners. No one rules over anyone else. Everyone contributes what they can." "What are you proposing?" asked Representative Mordax of the Trade Federation. "Complete reform," Torres replied. "Dissolve the current council structure. Create a new democratic assembly where every species has an equal voice. Make all decisions open to public debate, and most importantly, share the predecessor technology freely with everyone." The hall exploded with discussion. Some species were excited about the prospect of new technology. Others worried about losing the stability the council provided, even if that stability came with corruption. Council leader Vorthak stood up again. "You cannot dissolve thousands of years of galactic government because of one incident. The council provides order. Without us, there would be chaos. Order built on lies and murder is not order," said Representative Kyle Nara. "It is tyranny." Dr. Chen returned to the platform. "Council leader Vorthak, may I ask you a question?" Vorthak nodded reluctantly. "If the roles were reversed and humans had sent your people to die on a death world, how would you react?" "That is different," Vorthak protested. "My people have been civilized for millions of years. We would never—" "You tried to murder 200 innocent scientists," Chen interrupted. "How is that civilized?" The question hung in the air like a physical presence. Around the hall, representatives looked at each other with new understanding. The council had not just targeted humans. They had targeted anyone who did not fit their vision of proper galactic order. "The crystal beings have lived for millions of years," Chen continued. "They have seen civilizations rise and fall. They told me something interesting about the difference between true civilization and false civilization." "What did they say?" asked Dr. Thane. "True civilization is when strong people protect weak people. False civilization is when strong people eliminate weak people and call it order." The vote was scheduled for the next day, but the outcome was already clear. Species after species announced their support for democratic reform. Even some of the council's traditional allies called for change. That evening, Chen stood on the observation deck of the human embassy ship, looking down at Kepler 442c. The planet glowed green and blue now, beautiful in a way no one had thought possible. Ambassador Torres joined her at the window. "Nervous about tomorrow?" he asked. "Not really," Chen replied. "The hard part is already done. We proved that cooperation works better than control. We proved that making friends is more powerful than making enemies. And if some species refuse to join the new democratic system," Chen smiled, "then they can go their own way. But they will miss out on the most exciting time in galactic history. The crystal beings are eager to share technologies that will revolutionize everything. Faster travel, better communication, cleaner energy, advanced medicine. Who would want to miss that?" Below them, lights twinkled across the surface of the former Deathworld. Human settlements, crystal being cities, and mixed communities where both species lived together. It was a model for what the galaxy could become. "You know what the best part is?" Chen said. "What?" "The council thought they were punishing us. They thought they were teaching us a lesson about knowing our place." She laughed softly. "Instead, they gave us the greatest gift in galactic history. They gave us the chance to meet our oldest and wisest neighbors." The next morning, the Galactic Assembly voted. The motion to dissolve the current council and create a democratic government passed by an overwhelming margin. Only 12 species voted against it. Vorthak's species was one of them. 1 year after the humans first landed on Kepler 442c, the planet had become the most important world in known space. Ships from dozens of species arrived daily, bringing scientists, engineers, diplomats, and families eager to be part of the miracle. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the center of what had once been called the Galactic Council Chambers. The building had been renamed the Democratic Assembly Hall, and the changes were obvious everywhere. The high platform where council members had looked down on everyone else had been removed. Instead, circular seating arranged all representatives at the same level. "Dr. Chen," said Ambassador Torres as he approached her, "are you ready for your first speech as the human representative?" Chen adjusted her formal clothes nervously. A year ago, she had been a simple xenobiologist. Now she was speaking for humanity in the most important political body in the galaxy. "I never thought I would be standing here," she admitted. "None of us did," Torres replied. "But that is the point. The old system would never have allowed a field scientist to become a political leader. The new system recognizes that good ideas can come from anyone." The assembly session began with a remarkable sight. Former council leader Vorthak sat in the section reserved for observers. His species had eventually voted to join the new democratic system, but Vorthak himself had been stripped of all political power. He looked old and tired as he watched the proceedings. The first speaker was Resonance of Deepstones, the crystal being who had become the unofficial leader of his people. He moved to the speaking platform with flowing, musical steps. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," he said, his voice chiming through translation devices in dozens of languages. "1 year ago, my people were dying. We had forgotten our purpose and lost our way. The arrival of the humans reminded us who we used to be." The crystal being's body glowed brighter as he continued. "We were the builders of the first hyperspace network. We created technologies that connected worlds across impossible distances, but we became proud and foolish. We thought our power made us better than other species." Images appeared on the hall's displays, showing the ancient crystal civilization at its height. Magnificent cities that floated among the stars, ships that could cross the galaxy in hours, technologies that seemed like magic. "A plague of violence destroyed us," Resonance of Deepstones continued. "Not a disease of the body, but a sickness of the mind. We began to believe that inferior species should serve us or be eliminated. This thinking poisoned our civilization until we destroyed ourselves." The images changed to show the aftermath. Ruined cities, empty worlds, and the few survivors reduced to primitive lives on isolated planets. For thousands of years we lived with our shame. We promised ourselves we would never again claim to be superior to other species. We would remain simple and cause no more harm. "Then the humans came," the crystal being said, and his tone became warmer. "They did not try to conquer us or use us. They offered friendship. They shared their knowledge freely. They asked for our help, but they also offered their help in return." Dr. Chen felt tears in her eyes as she remembered those first difficult weeks on Kepler 442c. The moment when the crystal beings had emerged from their caves. The careful process of learning to communicate. The gradual building of trust. "The humans taught us that true strength comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down." Resonance of Deepstones continued. "They showed us that wisdom means sharing knowledge, not hoarding it." The crystal being gestured toward the human section of the assembly. "Today we offer our ancient technologies to all species, not as masters giving gifts to servants, but as friends sharing tools that will help everyone build better lives." The hall erupted in applause that lasted for several minutes. When it finally died down, Dr. Chen took her turn at the speaking platform. "Thank you, Resonance of Deepstones," she began. "A year ago, my team and I thought we were going on a simple research mission. We had no idea we were walking into a trap designed to kill us." Murmurs went through the audience. Everyone knew the story now, but hearing it from Chen herself still had power. "We also had no idea we were walking into the greatest opportunity in galactic history," she continued. "The chance to meet the predecessors. The chance to learn from the oldest civilization in the galaxy. The chance to help heal wounds that had festered for millennia." She looked directly at the section where former council members sat. The old council thought they were punishing us. They thought they were teaching humans our place in the galactic order, but they made a fundamental mistake. They assumed that survival was about being stronger than everything else. Chen smiled as she remembered Thunder, her razorback mount, who was probably napping in the sun back on Kepler 442c. "Humans do not survive by being the strongest or the smartest or the toughest," she said. "We survive by making friends. We survive by adapting. We survive by turning enemies into allies and problems into opportunities." The hall was completely silent now. Every being present hung on her words. The crystal beings have shared technologies with us that will revolutionize galactic civilization. Instant communication across any distance, hyperspace travel that is 10 times faster than before, energy sources that are clean and unlimited, medical techniques that can extend life and cure diseases. She paused to let this sink in. But the most important thing they have given us is not technology. It is wisdom. The wisdom to know that true civilization means working together, not ruling over each other. Chen activated a holographic display that showed images from Kepler 442c. The thriving settlements where humans and crystal beings lived side by side. The schools where children from both species learned together. The research centers where ancient knowledge was combined with new ideas. This is what the galaxy can become, she said. Not a place where strong species dominate weak ones, but a place where every species contributes what they can and benefits from what others offer. The applause was thunderous. Representatives from species that had never agreed on anything stood together and cheered. When the formal session ended, Chen found herself surrounded by diplomats and scientists eager to discuss cooperation agreements. The Aquatic Federation wanted to build underwater cities using crystal being technology. The Silicon Collective offered to help mass-produce the new hyperspace drives. Even the warrior species were excited about medical advances that could heal injuries thought to be permanent. As the crowd finally thinned, Chen noticed Vorthak approaching her. The former council leader looked smaller somehow, as if his defeat had physically diminished him. "Dr. Chen," he said quietly, "may I speak with you?" "Of course," she replied. They walked to a quiet corner of the hall. Vorthak was silent for a long moment, then spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "I was wrong," he said. "Everything I believed about humans, about strength, about leadership, all of it was wrong." Chen studied his face. She saw genuine regret there and pain. "When I sent you to Kepler 442c, I thought I was solving a problem," Vorthak continued. "I thought humans were dangerous because you did not follow our rules. I thought you needed to be controlled or eliminated. And now?" Chen asked. "Now I see that we were the dangerous ones. We were the ones who needed to be controlled. We had power without wisdom, authority without compassion." He looked toward the section where the crystal beings sat. "We were becoming exactly what destroyed the predecessors." Chen felt a surge of sympathy for the old lizard. "Vorthak, you made a terrible mistake, but you are here today listening and learning. That means something, does it?" he asked. "My people barely voted to join your new democracy. Many still think the old ways were better. What if we have not really changed?" Chen considered this carefully. "Change is hard," she said finally. "It takes time. But the fact that your people voted to join us at all shows they are capable of growth. And the fact that you are here, admitting your mistakes, shows that individuals can change even faster than societies." She gestured toward the crystal beings. "They made mistakes too. Worse mistakes than yours if you believe their stories. But they learned from those mistakes. They spent thousands of years in exile, thinking about what they had done wrong. When we gave them a second chance, they were ready to do better." "Are you offering me a second chance?" Vorthak asked. "I am offering you what the crystal beings offered us," Chen replied. "Friendship, partnership, the chance to build something better together." Vorthak's eyes widened in surprise. "After what I tried to do to you? Especially because of what you tried to do to us," Chen said. "If we can turn enemies into friends, if we can transform attempted murder into miraculous cooperation, then we can solve any problem the galaxy faces." 6 months later, Chen stood once again on the observation deck of a ship orbiting Kepler 442c. But this time the ship was not alone. Hundreds of vessels from dozens of species filled the space around the planet. Construction ships building new stations, science vessels conducting joint research, transport ships bringing families to the growing communities below. Ambassador Torres joined her, as he had so many times before. "The latest reports from the outer colonies," he said, handing her a data tablet. 3 more species have requested help with terraforming projects.